All right. So I'm interested in your near-death experience
Okay.
because I had my first memory as a child is a baby. I'm a baby in a baby bed, and I'm sitting there. So I'm old enough to sit up. At least in this memory, I'm sitting there, and I can see the room like you did. I can see it, and why I'm tearing up because my makeup is not tears. So clearly, and it never made any sense. Like with you, you just had this glip, this little video
Right.
clip in your head that made no sense. Like, how could you remember this? Like, how could I remember sitting up in a baby bed? And I could draw a picture of the room, of where the window is, the bed, the dresser, the
Mhm.
doorway, and I could see my siblings, my older siblings, running in and out through that living room, through the space of this doorway, in my view. And I'm sitting there and I'm telling God, you sent me to the wrong family. So I'm waiting to be switched, because I have this glip memory where I was somewhere like with angels, heaven. I didn't have those
Mhm.
words, but I was always taken care of. Everything I wanted, bam, taken care of. And so I'm sitting there, excuse me, you sent me to the wrong family. This family's weird, and they don't like me. And I'm sitting there waiting to be switched. And I know that they're listening to me, and they're going to switch me to my right family. There's been a mistake. And silence was my answer, because nobody coming to
Mhm.
my rescue. I was still there. And that's just this little glip. It's like this little memory in this egg, like in my head, an egg, like a little
Mhm.
preserved video clip that, grown up, what's that, as I got to be an adult, wait a minute, what is that, and I think
Right.
you went through that. Can you tell me what it was like for you?
Yes, and actually that falls into the question that a lot of people will ask me. They'll say, okay, you had your near-death experience, or you died and had your experience when you were 2 days old. Now you're 50 blah, blah, blah years old. How did you know that was a near-death experience? And with me, obviously I didn't know. I'm a 2-day-old infant. I'm not supposed to know some of the things that I knew from that experience, such as, like you were saying, what the room looked like, the color of the paint on the walls, the where the windows were, things of that nature. But I had memories of those. And for 33 years, I had no idea where those memories came from, what they were associated with. And when I finally so I was adopted when I was 4 months old. And so I met my adoptive mother, excuse me, my biological mother for the first time as an adult when I was 33. And during that first meeting that I had with her, I had opportunity to ask her, okay, I've had memories my whole life of certain things, with little video clips, little still pictures, you name it. And I have no idea what these are. And when I was explaining it to her, she began to tell me that the memories that I was explaining to her were memories of the hospital where I was born. And even then, I didn't even attach it to a near-death experience. I thought, well, wow, I had some strange trait about me that I could remember when I was 2 days old, which you've heard me say before. I jokingly will say, okay, I can remember where I was when I was 2 days old and things that happened to me when I was 2 days old, but I can't tell you where I put my keys and my cell phone 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, see, it's like they're
Uh,
preserved. That's why I say it's like in this egg.
right.
It's
And
like
one of the
nothing
things,
can finish it.
right, right. And one of the things that the Lord told me when I went through my enlightenment period after finding out the truth about what really happened was, I'm allowed to remember the things that I'm allowed to remember. In other words, I remember the things I'm allowed to remember. There are obviously things that I'm not allowed to remember, and that creates small gaps in the near-death experience.
This was something
But
told to you during your near-death
right,
experience?
no, it was afterwards.
Okay, I get
When
it. Communication.
yeah, when I finally came to the realization as to what happened, when the Lord was showing me what happened, and why I had these memories, and He brought all these memories together, that's when I started asking questions. I guess you could say questions that people generally are going to ask if they're adults while they're having their near-death experience. I only had the opportunity to ask them afterwards. And one of the things, again, was I only remember the things that the Lord has allowed me to remember for whatever reason. And again, He was able to pull together all these memories, and to where now it makes sense. And through my own investigations, I was able to go back to the state medical records for, adopted babies, birth records, hospital historians, and people like that, to get the shall we say, the earth-based evidence of what happened. But yeah, those memories are, even to this day, they are just as crystal clear as they were when I first realized them. And I first realized these memories going back to when I was as far back as I ever had any memories. So it's fascinating, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to discover more. Hopefully the Lord will open up some of these other things that I haven't been allowed to see yet, and let me understand more about what happened.
So you had these glimpses and these memories, and then where in that did the near-death experience memory come in? After you met that was before you met biological.
Right.
But you remember the light.
What happened was when I right, actually what had happened was I was born on August 1st. I went in for a common medical procedure that's done on male babies on August the 2nd. During that procedure, my blood pressure shot up, and when it did, I lost a lot of blood, and it was an uncontrollable blood loss to a point, and that caused me to lose consciousness and then become lifeless, as is said in the medical records. I was out for around 2 to 3 minutes, and during that time, the first memory that I have is being on the ceiling of my hospital room, looking down on my hospital room. And that's where, at that point, I see where the door entry is, the windows, the hospital bed, what kind of bed it was. And then I have a moment where I look to my right and I see a large female angel appear to my right. And
what'd she look like?
Dark hair, large, very beautiful, very a radiant white about her, primarily in the clothing she was wearing. She also had a very motherly look about her, a very motherly attitude, a very caring attitude. The thing that she did with me was when she approached me from my right, she cradled me in her arms and put a cloth over me. And of course, covered in a cloth, I don't see anything, but I felt the sensation of speed. It wasn't scary. It was very peaceful.
Was there sound?
Sounded like a small jet engine, and it wasn't loud. It wasn't intimidating.
Can you
tell it was there.
Verbalize what it sounded like for me?
If you are, if you're standing at the end of a runway at an airport and a jet engine is taking off, obviously it's going to be mega loud, 140 to 200 decibels, I guess. I don't know. But this was that same sound, but nowhere near that loud. And it didn't cause me to be scared. It didn't cause me to want to cover my ears or anything like that. It just seemed to match the high speed.
Were you
sensation.
Inside that speed and in that sound, or beside it?
No, actually I was in her arms, and I was covered by the cloth.
You were in her arms, and she went through this tunnel through this speed.
Right.
You didn't go alone.
No. Okay. We get when we come to a stop, she removes the cloth, and I'm wide-eyed looking around, and I see that she and I are in a room that's white with 7 pillars surrounding a elevated floor. And on that elevated floor is Jesus. Now, I'm 2 days old. I didn't know that was Jesus.
What did he look like to you?
He was dark brown hair, wearing white, almost like a white robe with a gold rope around his waist. Very peaceful looking. There was no doubt that you knew by looking at him that this is a person that's in charge. Okay. But there was no intimidation. There was no fear. And when the angel removed the cloth from me, and I'm looking around a little bit, I look over at him and he looks at the angel and says, bring him to me. So she does, and he
Was this
holds me.
telepathic, or did you hear a
Yes.
voice?
Yes. Yeah. Well, they were telepathic. Yes. When he
Did you hear male
when-
voice? I'm sorry. Did you hear telepathic male voice?
Yes, definitely male voice. And there were actually only 2 voices that I heard during this experience. I'll tell you the other one here in a minute, but this one was male. So he holds me in his left arm, or on his left shoulder, like cradling me here, which I remember that. I remember playing with his hair. I remember chewing on his hair, which is something that comes up again later. And I remember him walking around with me, but I don't remember anything else. I think probably the things that I don't remember from him holding me are some of the aspects of things that I'm not supposed to know, or I'm not supposed to remember. Maybe I will later. I hope I do, but
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
that's
it was a
memory.
It was just to be held by Jesus.
Yeah.
Just to be, just to be in his arms.
I imagine that's lifelong in your heart.
It is, and actually, it's if nothing else ever in life ever happens, that okay, there we are.
Right.
That's you're cared for. When a mother does it, it's extra special. But when your Savior does it, it is, it wipes away everything. And but anyway, that's the only experience, memory that I have of my interaction with Jesus. I jump to the next memory where I'm in a room. It looks to be around 10 foot by 10 foot. And to my right, I look and there's a hallway, and that hallway goes back into the room where I was with Jesus. If I look to my left, there is a tunnel, and the tunnel has an entrance to it like it's stone. It looks like an old railroad tunnel, like you'd see on the side of a mountain. And I look back to my right again, and again, there's no fear. There's no worry. I don't feel like I'm standing up. I assume I hate to use the word floating, but I'm just there. And I look to my right again, and I see 2 angels coming toward me. One is a male, one is a female, both of them child age, look like. The girl looks to be about 8 to 10 years old. The boy looks to be around 6 or 7 years old. He had dark hair, didn't really pay me a whole lot of attention. The female, the girl angel, she is totally captivated with me. Everything that I would evidently say or do or react to or whatever, her eyes would just light up. She had this massive smile on her face, and she would just giggle. And evidently, while I was there, and I don't remember the details of this part, but evidently we were playing for a while together. And when we were doing that, that's when she would just giggle and laugh, like she was totally absorbed into what we were doing and the fun we were having. But eventually, at one point, she stood up and she said, "Okay, John, you need to come with me. We need to go back to your body." And my thinking at that point was, I don't know what she's saying. I don't know what these words mean. I'm a 2-day-old infant. But okay, she keeps saying it, and she keeps waving for me to come with her. And she keeps saying, "John, we need to go back to your body. John, we need to go back to your body." So eventually I get up to her, and I'm following she and the male angel into this tunnel. And it's dark, but I'm not scared. I'm not worried.
Was it dark when the angel took you there?
Um,
Was it the same
into
tunnel?
the tunnel. I'm sorry, say it again.
Was it the same tunnel that
No.
the angel? It was different.
Right. The second tunnel, it was more like we were walking down the tunnel, where the first tunnel was more like high speed.
Okay. Was it light or dark, the first tunnel?
I don't know, because I was covered by the cloth.
Oh, gotcha. And then so
Yeah.
now the second tunnel is dark.
It's
I'm sorry.
dark. It's dark, but still there's enough light that's illuminating where we're able to walk through.
You were
and
walking with this little girl.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'm visual. I got to see everything.
Yeah.
I got to see it in
Sure.
my head. Okay.
And every few steps, she would turn around and look at me like, "Come on, John, we got to go back to your body." And the part that's most fascinating about this, this part of the memory is this: when I was born, my biological mother named me David. I was adopted 4 months and 17 days later. I didn't get the name John until the day I was adopted. So
Now you go
I looked
Allen
up-
now. What are you, John Allen?
right,
Gotcha.
right, John Allen, yes. Which to me is probably the most fascinating thing that happened in the near-death experience to me, was heaven was aware of what my name was going to be 4 months later and was already addressing me by that name.
All knowing.
Right, exactly. It was like, okay, this is your confirmation that this is what is meant to be.
Right.
This is what is going to be, and this is how we're always going to be looking at you. But when I met with my biological mother for the first time as an adult, and I'm talking to her about these memories, one of the things I said was that I had memories of the room, which as a 2-day-old baby, I should not be up at a ceiling in a room. You would think I would recognize the room from within the baby crib.
Because you have logic.
Right.
And you're trying to make reasoning out of this. I get it.
Right. But I had no memories of that room from the baby crib, just from up there at the ceiling. And I'm telling, I'm talking to my birth mother about this, and she said, well, there's only two things she could confirm. One was what my hospital room looked like, and the second was that she would carry me around the room after my procedure, and the only way she could get me quiet and comfortable was for her to hold me on her left shoulder. Well, who else had just held me on their left shoulder? And I remembered, and she said that when she could hold me on her left shoulder, I loved to play with her hair and play with and chew on her hair as well.
So it was natural that you did it to Jesus.
Exactly. Actually, I did it with Jesus first, and then I came back and I was like, "Hey, this is familiar." Okay, so that's where a lot of these tie in together, and that's where a lot of the confirmation to me is that okay, this was real. This is.
What do you make of it now? Like as your age, as you are today, how do you put this in perspective? Because
that's one. No, go ahead.
No, just you know why? Because just because it's so foreign.
Right.
Like we were on a foreign land that nobody was ever there before, and it's so personal. Only we were there. There's no witnesses. That's all inside of you. So, what do you do with it?
That is one question that I have asked a lot of other near-death experiencers, because I wanted to make sure I was normal when I asked that question. I remember at one point sitting here in our living room, looking at my wife and saying, okay, I have these memories. I know what this experience was. I know what happened. I know why it happened. Now, how do I incorporate that into everyday life? Do I incorporate that into everyday life? Do I just stick it back in my memory and say, well, that was something fantastic that I went through? And how do you do it? And I was talking to a gentleman a couple of weeks ago, and he's got an amazing presentation that he does about his near-death experience. And I asked him, I said, okay, it's been 20 years since you as an adult went through your near-death experience, how do you incorporate that into your everyday life? And he said, or how did you learn to? And he said, I still haven't. And that's something that's going to be different for every person.
I
To
just
me,
learned an answer for me on that
Mhm.
recently, if I could share. Prayer
Sure.
is, I mean, not just prayer, but I think when you've had a near-death experience, prayer is like just picking up a phone and it starts all up again. And
Right.
and then watch what happens afterwards.
Mhm.
It is very strong. I mean, it's not just, sure, everybody prays. Sure, it's just prayer. But I think when you've had a near-death experience and you've been there, I don't want to say the connection's better, that we have a straight shot to God and other people don't. I'm not trying to say that, but it's just so automatic. Answers come verbally, through dreams, through, wow, that just happened. I was just praying about that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, any question, any issue we have as far as our NDE is close enough that prayer will answer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, to respond to what you just said, when I found out about this being an NDE, I was spending some time in prayer and meditation. Now, all my life, I mean, I've grown up as a Christian, and I haven't always lived as a Christian, but I have always been a part of the Christian belief system. And so meditation to me wasn't something that was very big, but I was going through a period of time where I just felt a sensitivity toward meditation. And during that one particular meditation event one night, is and how I came to know that this was a near-death experience. I was meditating on the Lord. I was meditating on just Him, and I began seeing one of the memories that kept coming up from my near-death experience, and I couldn't figure out why it kept coming up into my mind. And so finally, I just said, "Okay, Lord, you keep showing this to me. What does this mean? Why do you keep showing this picture of what my hospital room looked like? There's got to be a reason." And the Lord spoke to me during that and said, "Pay attention to your perspective in this room or in this photo." And that was the first time after having that particular photo memory in my head for 50 years that I actually noticed, wow, I'm at the ceiling.
Mhm.
Okay, now attached to what you were saying, I agree. The Lord answers everybody's prayers. Sometimes not the way we particularly want it to be, or not particularly on our timing, but the prayer is always heard and it's always answered in some way. But at the same time, I think we are a little bit more sensitive.
Yes.
Because, and it doesn't mean that our prayers mean more. It just means our antennas
Yeah.
are tuned a little differently sometimes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we don't have atmospheric changes where our antennas don't exactly work sometimes, but it means, especially when we're talking about things related to a near-death experience and what the purpose of it was and what we're supposed to do from this point forward, when the Lord answers those prayers, yes, it does. We're very sensitive to that.
That came to me a few years ago during prayer too. Exact same thing.
Right.
And it was mind blowing after that, because okay, I seen my NDE, I seen these pictures, these little clips, but I wasn't realizing what perspective I was seeing it from.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing it from, with the drowning, of course, over the pond, wasn't an issue. But when I lost the twins, that NDE, I suddenly realized during prayer, like you're saying, that I was seeing myself across the room as a point of reference at one point. I was still this white, invisible, in the bright white light, just this invisible feeling like I'm still me. But at one point, I was seeing a physical me across the room. At another point, I seen me and Jesus from behind and drop down, going down to earth. And then later when we come back, then my hands are in front of me. I have physical hands. So that's important. I don't think people realize to kind of scan their memories like that. Like, what point of reference are you at when you saw this? And what were you?
Right.
Your physical body? Was you invisible? So I totally get that.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot to take in sometimes, because
Sometimes.
yeah, you don't want, you want to make sure that you're not feeding into it, that actually what you're focusing on is actually what's already there.
Yeah.
That's
Be
something
nice
I'm
if we had a
always
polygraph that we could just keep on
right.
ourselves all the time. So am I telling the truth? Because I really want to be truthful here. And maybe
Right.
there's a little imagination, you know what I mean? Because
Oh, I
it's
know.
constant. Because I'm one of those people, it sounds like you are too, that you want it to be truthful, you want it to be factual, you want it to be accurate, you don't want to embellish, you don't want to create,
Right.
because you don't need to, because those
Right.
glips are fascinating enough and enough to last you for a lifetime to feast
Exactly.
on, that you don't want to cover it up by crap that don't belong there, because you're
Right.
going to cover up the miracles, the magic of it. There's
Exactly.
so much there to be uncovered, to see, that I'm like that too. I just want to be very accurate and very sure. Is that what you're seeing? You're not interjecting. And the rule for me on that is, if I can remember it the same way, week from now, month from now, year from now, decade from now, that is a true memory.
Right.
And when things
Exactly.
always come back the same way. And that's how I started internalizing, okay, what was this? Because I'm always seeing it the same way. And so much time went by. And I think that's what you did with that memory of the room.
Exactly. And it's and I love what you said. We don't need to embellish it. And one of the things I'm finding, and as I accepted the fact that what I had was a near-death experience, and as I have branched out to learn more about near-death experiences, one of the things I found is a major truth, and this is something that I try to tell people who are maybe trying to learn to adjust after having had one. You are the expert of your own near-death experience. Okay, sometimes you're going to hear other near-death experiencers say things that you're going to have in common with them, such as what you were talking about with seeing the room and whatnot. And when you run into that, you should take that as confirmation that, okay, you're not nuts. Okay, this is something that happens. And I can't tell you how many times that I've heard other near-death experiencers talk about their experience, and I would go, I saw the same thing, or I felt the same thing, or whatever. And there are going to be commonalities amongst a lot of near-death experiences, but there are also going to be people who are going to come up from the shadows and say, no, you really didn't look at it that way. You're not seeing it right. And that's wrong. Have confidence in what the Lord has shown you through your near-death experience. And then, as I did, once I realized that's what it was, I asked the Lord 2 questions. One was, okay, why did you send me back? And the second question was, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
What do you want me to do with this? I don't have that answer. It has to come from Him. And if He is God enough to create me, He's God enough to bring me there and to bring me back, which He has done.
Well,
Okay,
all I
now what's
know
the
is what we're
reason?
doing right now.
Right.
That's all we can do until we're shown something else. To me,
Mm-hmm.
this is all we can do, is, put this out there for the whole world to say, you believe us or you don't believe us, but we're saying we've been there, we've seen it, and it's there. And that's where you're
Right.
going to go.
Right. Yeah. And, when I asked the Lord, why did He send me back? Why couldn't I have stayed? His answer to me was, well, you are set to be a blessing to too many people for you to stay here. Which, when I hear that as an adult, I think, okay, I'm not so arrogant as to think I'm a walking, talking blessing to everybody. But as soon as I thought that, I thought, why would He say that about me? And what's so special about me? He then showed me during meditation all different times that I have been a blessing to someone that I didn't even know. And one of the things He also shared with me was that, and I'm going to say this about myself, I believe it's also going to apply to others, but not necessarily to everybody. Our purpose in this life is to share love, is to share peace, to share support, to be there to help lift up others. The gifts we get in this life are the tools that we use to do that with. Therefore, your gifts of life in life may be music, it might be art, it might be making videos, it might be public speaking, it might be working as a janitor, it might be working as a Waffle House waitress. Whatever the case may be, that's what you're placed here. Those are the gifts that you're given to be a blessing to others. And so that's the approach that I have with what I'm doing, is lifting others up, being a blessing, supporting people. Do I always have the answer? Nope. I don't always have the answer for myself, so I surely can't do it for everybody. But through prayer is when we get these answers. It's that connection that we have with the divine, because we're humbling ourselves and saying, okay, I'm coming out of my brain and I want to get into the mind of Christ, and I want to get the answers to these questions. And sometimes it takes a while, sometimes it comes immediately, or whatever the case may be. You take it and you have faith, and it's an awesome experience.
That made me think of something a while ago. My husband showed me a video of a guy was shoplifting or something, and he's taken off running, and this guy has a rig truck, which is welding, which my husband does. He opens up the door and stops the guy for the cop, and afterwards he said, I always wanted to apprehend someone to help put the handcuffs on, because he helped put the handcuffs on. And that just made me think of what you're saying. It's like he had always wanted to do that, and he happened to be right there at the right moment, and he did it. And
Right.
Who knows what our destiny is? Maybe part of his destiny was to stop that cop from being hurt further or whatever. But well, it seems like we all have these little seeds in us that, like, I used to be extremely shy, and I was like even mute for a while. I was just like so shy. And then for me to come out and do this, it comes out from a place, because I'm still shy. It comes out from a place of this huge gratitude that's bigger than I am. And it's almost like somebody else steps in and I step away. And so maybe what you say, somebody's good at music or they're good at this or that, and maybe you don't actually have a talent for something, but if you have the will and the desire, and there's something that feeds your soul, that I don't know. I got off on a tangent.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, no, I know what you mean about the destiny, because there are, I don't know about you, but I know throughout life it's like you look back at life, and life is made up of different chapters, and you go through these chapters and you think, okay, well, this is what life is going to be like from here on out. And then 10 years later, you look at it back and you say, well, wait a minute, I thought life was going to be like that. Now it's changed. And it's just a series of chapters that lead up to whatever. And to me, that's where we're learning our lessons. That's where we are growing. That's where we're maturing as individuals. And when you do that with the wisdom of God molding you, leading you, and inviting you on to further adventures, as I would say, that's when you really come to who you are as a person. Why didn't I know that I'd had a near-death experience when I was 10 days old, or
Right.
10 years old, or 20? Because I probably would not have handled it and been responsible with it.
There's no words either.
Right.
No words
No,
for
and
that.
no, there's not. It's like I knew how not so much difficult but challenging it was to understand how to fit the knowledge of my near-death experience into my life at 50. I can imagine what it would have been like when I was 20. And so, we don't have all the answers, but we're connected with the one who does.
Did you go to your adoptive parents and say, I have this memory?
Yes, I did actually. I did, and they were absolutely awesome people, absolutely awesome, and awesome parents. But they couldn't help me. They didn't know.
Was that part of your reason to seek out your biological mother? Was answers for that memory?
No,
Or
Actually, no. Actually, my desire to find her was solely because I was interested in my genealogical past. Um, I had basically, to know about my past, I had one piece of paper, and it told me the nationality of where my family came from, and it turns out that was wrong. uh, I was told I was German. Well, I might be like 1/2% German. The rest of it's Irish, Scottish, British, and Native American, and none of that was included in that. So I'm
You have
thankful that
Native American in you?
yes.
That seems to run common in near-death experiencers, I'm finding.
Yeah, actually, and the amazing thing is that the Native American side comes from the British portion of my family, because after they came here from England around the 1600s, they were here. Their generations were patriots in the Revolutionary War, and then afterwards, when those that survived the war were able to build farms, married into several different tribes of Native Americans. So, I've got Dakota Sioux, I've got Cherokee, and I've got Seminole.
It's funny how your desire to find your biological past led into your NDE past, your spiritual past.
It does. It does. It's I think I was being directed for a reason. I could say more, but I'll leave it at that.
Do you feel you have any kind of gifts from your NDE? Impact, no psychic, anything like along those lines? Or
I think the most prominent thing I have is sensitivity. I mean, we talked about this a second ago. Spiritual sensitivity. Sometimes in a Christian sense, we call it the spirit of discernment. But it goes beyond just being able to possibly identify, spiritual aspects. It goes into the sensitivity of communication.
you know what I think that is?
What's that?
The telepathic communication we had on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I think that gives us another sense. Like, they say sixth sense or whatever. I think that's another sense that that was a sense we used there, was given, and I don't think it gets taken away. I think it stays. I don't think it gets undone.
No, I believe you're right. I believe you're right. Just and also to recognize the spiritual in all things. And that belief comes primarily from the series from the Native Americans, how not just human beings have spirits, but also plants, animals, every living creature.
You feel connection to plants and animals?
Yes. Of course, in the Bible it says everything that has breath, praise the Lord. And Jesus said, even the rocks will cry out in worship if we don't.
What I find interesting is a lot of near-death experiencers say when they had their NDE, even the flowers communicated with them, even the trees and the grass seemed to communicate them. The water in the river, the lake, it communicated with them. And so that's like a whole telepathic realm there. So it's not surprising that when we come back, we continue that telepathic realm. Like we were saying, the sixth sense, it's not just between us, it's between everything around us. There's a telepathic communication always flowing. And I think they call them empaths. And I have to get away from a lot of energies sometimes because I'm just picking up on so much stuff that nobody else is. And it starts to overwhelm me after a while. If I'm out here, like a bunch of people, a bunch of stuff going on, I just need to get away and get centered because it just seems like there's so much energy. There's so much I'm picking up on. Now, as far as what everybody's saying, I have no idea because I'm hearing their emotions. I'm watching their, all that. And sometimes I think it's a learning disability for children when you're picking up on all the telepathic stuff and you're not hearing, what a teacher's saying.
Right.
So
Yeah, I can
hopefully
see
it's not
that.
for everybody. It's not a good thing.
No, no, I can relate to that and say that when you go through your empathic exhaustion, it's as bad as any kind of exhaustion, if not worse in some cases.
Mhm.
Um, I've, in the past couple of days, I've gone through that, and I've come home and told my wife as soon as I walk in the front door, I'm so exhausted, and it's not a physical. It's it's a spiritual exhaustion that I just I can't function, and you do have to learn to say, okay, I'm taking a break, um, because you're not going to be of service to anybody else if you can't at least think for yourself.
Right.
And so that's something you have to learn how to do when you begin to operate in the spirit and with the empathy gifts. That's how
I
we
have
say.
found being around, taking care of someone that's sick will
Mhm.
totally deplete me after a while. Like I have nothing left. My total focus is on them, and I'm picking up what, one step ahead of time on what they need.
Right.
And, taking care of everything that I'm like, whoa, where did I go? Whoa,
Hmm.
I've got to get away from this because I'm like, they are me. I am them. It's like I get
Right.
so immersed and uh,
There have been times I had gone. I had a loved one that I was very close to passed away, and the only thing that I could um, contribute to that was that I just did not want to be around anybody for a while. And when I finally went out, I realized I couldn't handle it. And I had to slowly ease back into being out in public. And one of the things that I did was I went to a local Walmart and I said, okay, I'm giving myself permission to go in and walk from one side of the store to the other and then leave. And I did that. And it was literally as though every person that I came within, say, 4 feet of was sucking the energy out of me.
Mhm.
I wasn't absorbing their energy. They were taking my energy. I don't know if they were taking strength from me or what. And I could deal with that for about half an hour. Then I had to go back out and recharge. But now after I had that experience and I realized, that was what was happening, I was able to recover a lot faster and be okay. But, we don't totally understand everything that goes on in the spirit realm. We're not going to as human beings. But I think we have to recognize that, the spirit realm is bigger than we realize it is. And God is in control of that. And he lets us have bits and pieces of it from time to time for his purposes and for things that benefit us and others. But, it's important when you feel like you have a gift and you have a talent or a trait or whatever spiritually, don't just, push it aside. Pray about it, meditate on it, and ask the Lord, show me why this is here and what I'm supposed to do with it.
it's every day. And
Every day.
we'll wake up one day and it's all going to be solved. Nope.
No, it's kind of like I went to a Native American dance a couple of years ago, and somebody asked the one of the chiefs. They said, when y'all are dancing and you're chanting while you're dancing, what are you saying? And then the chief looked at the person that answered the question. And he said, "We don't know, but one day we will." And that's reference to the spiritual aspect to what they're doing in the physical. And I thought, it is absolutely liberating to say, okay, I don't know why the Lord gave me this gift. I don't know how he gave me this gift, but one day I will. And there's just a lot of freedom in that. And it's awesome.
Control.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay not to be in control. It's okay to use it for the purpose he gave it to you for, but it's okay to yield to him and say, I don't have all the questions. I need your help here.
Yeah.
And that's what he wants.
Expression, follow where led. And you can't do that
Right.
when you're in control, but you just want to
No.
follow where you're led. Like Sundays, like say, let's just go. We don't know where we're going. We don't have a plan. Let's just go. And we'll end up where we're meant to be. Just keep
Right.
following where we're led to go. And so, but if we were trying to control it, like we're gonna be this area, that time, I can't live in that. You know what I mean? This like I like to have just the freedom of just go and see where we end up and see who we meet. And maybe I was meant to be here at a certain time, you know. But
Right. That's true.
it seems like it gets easier once you get in your 50s. Like you have the mental capacity to understand this stuff. And some of these people that are talking about their NDE in their 20s and 30s, I don't know how in the world they're doing it. I just did not have the capacity at that age to open up and talk from my heart and not control what, you know, I was saying, because, you know, a lot of this is just, you know, open up and going from memory and going from the telepathic place, you know, space between us. And I don't know. I don't know what your job is, but like when I go to work with my husband, you know, I'm working with guys on a pipeline. And so I have to like turn myself off to who I really want to be and what I really want to talk about and all my feelings and work on this stuff and handing the tools and, you know, get through that so I can get home and get on my laptop and hear about NDEs. That's what I really want to do.
Right.
So.
And that's exhausting too.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have to turn it off and live the other world for a while.
Yeah.
That can be very exhausting.
Yeah, but we can't tiptoe through the tulips all day and pay for, you know, our supper. So.
No, no, I know. Yeah, it's I'm the same way. You know, it's like, okay, I got to flip some switches every now and then to, you know, say, okay, we're doing this right now. Let's turn this other switch off. And,
what you were saying about the Walmart thing, I've learned to stop avoiding. I avoid eye contact when I'm on a mission, got things to do, and I don't have the time to like really look at somebody and understand what they're going through, you know, that kind of thing. Because once I make eye contact, it's like the energy starts, and so I'm picking up on everything, and
right.
and sometimes you just don't need to go there.
Right.
And sometimes you do, you know, like if you see an accident along the road and you pull over, yeah, you know, you can get in that realm, and yeah, it is a turning on and off.
Right. Just having the wisdom to know when.
Yeah.
That's huge. And I think the same thing applies to people that are too negative. There's a phrase, they're called energy vampires.
Yeah.
Negativity becomes a void, and in order to feed that void, they have to pull in some positive to, you know, to feed what it is that they're trying to build on. And, you know, knowing how to shut that off and shut that down.
Yeah. And if you have a lot to give, you can give it. But sometimes when you don't no longer have a lot to give, got to go.
Right. Yeah. You've got to know. You've got to know. But
yeah, it's really been nice talking to you.
Well, same here. Same here.
Is there anything that you're starting that you want to talk about, or?
Well, one of the things that we're in the process of doing is and you know, please understand, this is in the beginning stage. Okay, we know there's a need for it. We know we have an idea as to what we want to do, but we're not really going into a great deal of detail yet because there's still a lot of things we've got to work out. But what we're doing, you know, we have a ministry called Royal Ministries, and it's royalministries.com is the website. Excuse me, .net is the website.
Now you're a minister.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I worked off and on in ministry now for around 30 years. I worked in full-time youth pastoring.
You have a PhD in theology?
Yes, I have a master's in theology. I have a PhD in theology.
So can I call you Dr. Allen?
If you'd like, yeah, that's fine. I'm in the process of working on my second PhD in history. So, but I have an undergraduate in business, a master's degree in genealogical studies as well as history, and then a doctorate in theology, and fixing to have a doctorate in history.
Wow.
And then, and the funny thing is that right after I had the after I earned my bachelor's degree in 1989, I swore I'd never open another book.
I know that feeling.
After I finished the second doctorate degree, I'm going to say that same thing, knowing that I don't know if it's not going to happen or not. But yeah, about roughly 30 years of experience, youth ministry, associate pastorship, Christian counseling, you know, you name it. And it's been a real joy to
I'm
serve the Lord
hoping
with this.
that we can merge my NDE TV with your ministry
Mhm.
at some point. And so we get that message out there, because my frustration has been that the NDE community has become so liberal and with an agenda. They're not accepting of Christian NDEers. And I've had so many NDEers tell me that their churches want nothing to do with NDEs. They think it's like black magic and stuff. And the way IONS is going, I can kind of see why. At first I took offense, like, well, that's not right, you know, but I can see now why they feel that way. And I actually had a minister tell me about a year ago that I said, if you would like, I could talk to your church about near-death experiences. He's like, no. And I said, well, why not? And he said, well, you know, you don't think they're real. I said, well, do you think I'm a liar? He said, well, I think that people are misguided. And I said, have you had people in your church tell you they've had near-death experiences? Yes, I have. And I said, well, could they come to my group? If you don't want it in your church, can they come to my group? And he said, no, because I have to protect my flock. I thought, protect from me? Like, I'm not going to hurt nobody, but I understand the viewpoint they think they have. And it is correct of the NDE community. And that's why I'm starting the NDE TV and wanting to get in with ministry, is to get NDEs into the churches, not the NDE community that is liberal and pro-choice and hate-filled. You know, everything that's going on in the world right now.
One of the things, and this is one of the driving forces behind, you know, what we're doing with Royal Ministries. Put yourself in a place, and we've kind of touched on this when we talk about some of our stories as well. Put yourself in a place where you are any age, let's just say 45, and you have a near-death experience. Let's say you're in a car accident, whatever experience you have it, and you come back. Once you come back, you now have to deal with your physical issues, medical issues, and now you have to deal with the fact that you just experienced and interacted with somebody, something, whatever. We'll just say God, in the afterlife. Now, just between those two alone, those are two huge foundational rocking things that you now have to experience. And you're going to go through different aspects of how to get through it. Okay. And now add on to that, a lot of people are scared to death to talk to their spouses about this, or talk to their kids about it, because they're afraid their kids are going to think they're nuts and are put them up for, you know, put them in a facility. You have, you know, you don't dare want to talk to somebody at work about it, because, you know, what do they know? Then you get into, can you talk to your doctor? Well, most doctors aren't going to want to talk to you about it either. I'm not going to say all aren't, because there are some that will, okay? But you may have the door shut in your face when you mention it to a doctor. And then you say, well, wait a minute. I can't talk to my family. I can't talk to my doctor. I can't talk to anybody else. Surely I can go to my church. After all, it is a spiritual home. And unfortunately, a lot of churches are going to say what you just said. No, we don't talk about it. We don't believe in it. We don't think it's of God. Now, where are you? You're dealing with the foundational changes in your life because of this accident, because of near-death experience, and you're sitting there and you have nobody to talk to. Now we know why there's so many people who have had near-death experiences that commit suicide. Now we know why there are so many people who have had near-death experiences who end up getting divorced. And I'm not going to say it's all because, but partly because they don't have anybody they can go to for support. Or they find out that there's so many people that are going to shut doors in their face that they stop looking. there are places out here that'll show you support. There are people, especially in NDE videos. If you Google NDE, I saw God, or whatever, you're going to run across some. But still, to have a resource you can go to say, hey, this is what I went through. Am I normal?
Mhm.
Am I crazy?
Yeah, but we just don't want that resource to tell that person, don't talk about your NDE until you have read this book, or
Right.
Don't talk about God, Jesus in your NDE, or don't tell your NDE, or you're not a very good presenter, or we think you're a liar. We don't believe your NDE. I mean, it's very important what organization that they have available, and what do they have available to them right now.
Right.
So I think if we can get them more with a ministry and get the ministry open their arms to people that's had these, because I mean, in my words, I feel the devil has taken the NDE, and I want to give them back to God, or give them to God where they belong. That's exactly how I feel. That's how strongly I feel, because when people are told not to go to church, that they don't like certain type of Christians, and because they had NDE, I don't want people to be confronted with that. When, like you say, they've had this NDE, they've might even have these physical injuries left from, I lost my twins through my NDE. You're very vulnerable.
Right.
And what these people tell you that are supposedly the experts on NDEs, which may not actually be an expert at all. They may have never had an NDE, but they've read some books and they've decided this is what an NDE should look like, talk like. And if you're not that, then you're not welcome here. So
yeah, you're 100% correct. And that's what we're trying to do with Royal Ministries. We don't just work solely with NDEs.
Right.
We're a full ministry. But at the same time, the Lord has opened that door up, and a sensitivity to that subject to me. And I'm like, okay, if the Lord is opening this up and creating connections with others who are also of the same frame of mind, then this is something that I've got to do.
Yeah. And we have people in the churches too telling NDEers, well, what you're saying doesn't match the Bible. Well, I know for my NDE, I didn't go read the Bible and then say this is my NDE. So I mean, if it matches the Bible or not, this is my experience. So it's going to have to match something, because this is what happened. And the very first thought I had the moment I was in heaven at 25 in the bright white light was, oh my gosh, it was real. All that Bible stuff and Jesus and God, that was real, just from being in the white light, because I was no longer in the hospital room, in the emergency room, in the wheelchair. I went through a tunnel like you did, very loud. My noise sounded like this, like a rocket shut off, shut off. Like I was in the middle of this rocket shooting off. This loud wind speed and this vibration went way up, and it was dim inside. That's why I was asking you questions. Like, was it dark? Was it light? What did it sound like? I wasn't trying to interrogate you. I was like, I'm trying to pick your brain. Yeah. And so then it stopped, and then suddenly I'm in a white light. And so that's all it was at first, was just me and this white light. And immediately, oh my gosh, it's real. It's real. I wish I could tell people it really is real. That was before I seen God and the angels, heaven, and mine was just like outlines. It wasn't color like you saw, color and actual figures, and mine was just outline. But and then scenarios opened up, and that was color and stuff. But it was a scenario. It showed me something. Then I seen myself across the room pouring out, I guess you would say, life review, because I was telling God all the abuses I went through. And then I seen Jesus and I drop down and go down to earth, and I saw the future of my sons, how they would be if I didn't come back. So I saw things. But as far as heaven itself and who was there, was just the bright white light and the outline. But still, it was that impact of, oh, wow, it's real. And so then you come back and you're left with, I was just in heaven. How do I tell? Do I tell? Do I keep my mouth shut? Is this not the right time to tell? And then when you do start to tell, okay, you told it. Now what? That's not over. Once you tell it, it's not over. There's got to be more to it than just telling to one person. But mine was like in 1986, so nobody heard of NDEs. There was no word. I thought it never happened to anybody before, ever. So who was I to say this happened to me when I thought I knew it never happened to anybody before?
Right.
And so when I started to hear other NDEers, oh wow, that was an NDE. I still didn't think mine was an NDE. It was just a small little glip. It was just something personal. It wasn't an NDE because those people told this whole great big long story. I just had these little blips, and my glips started to, like a kaleidoscope, started putting together and started making a picture. And yeah, but yeah. So I mean, I don't know. All I know is it's like a start. You know what you're starting, what I'm starting. That's all we can do is try.
That's one of the first things that we're going to do is we're putting together some articles that will be on our website for people to go to. And I guess the best way to put this is sometimes the most helpful thing you can find out is you're not alone. Sometimes if you find out, okay, I'm not the first person who's gone through this, or I'm not the only person going through this, that can be huge. And that's one of the first things we want to do is emphasize, this is not, you're not doing this by yourself. You're not the only person in the world who's ever gone through this. So, have peace about it. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to address the issues related to why. So let's just say biblical proof that NDEs do exist. And there's plenty of opportunity to learn and grow with that, not just for people who've gone through NDEs, but also pastors and others. They need that information because from what I've understood, I think it's like 1 in 25 people walking on the face of the earth now have had a near-death experience. Okay, if that's 1 in 25 out of all these millions of people that are here on earth, billions of people here on earth, somebody needs to be addressing the spiritual side of this rather than just pushing it off and saying that doesn't exist. It does exist. One of the changes that happened to me once I realized I had a near-death experience was I had become a lot bolder. And, you can doubt me in a lot of things, but if you doubt me with my near-death experience, I will let you know point blank, it wasn't a dream. Okay. It was reality. And we all go through life saying, well, I don't care what other people say about me. Yeah, we do. To a large degree, we do care about what other people say about me. But when it comes to my near-death experience, I don't care.
Yeah. As we get older and bolder.
No negative comment about near-death experiences phases me in the least. I know what the fact is.
Right. So. Yeah. Because as you get older and bolder, you realize what you think of yourself is more important than what other people think of you. What God knows about you is more important than what people here on earth think. And so, well, it's been great. So
yes, it has.
We'll talk again.
Okay.
And keep in touch. And
yes, I will.
We can make something wonderful happen.
We're going to do that. Yeah, we'll work on getting some great resources out there for people, not only with our articles and hopefully possibly some counseling availability, but also with the videos. A lot of people, I know me, I'll watch a video before I read an article. So that can be. Huge.
We get older, our eyes get tired easy.
Yeah, they do.
Lazy. We live in a video world. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but
well,
anyway,
you enjoy the rest of your day. I don't want to keep you all day.
No, you're okay. Okay, and y'all have a great day, and thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Okay, I'll see you later, Dr. Allen.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.